Hello, this is Laura at Myers Makes, and today I get to show you how to make a Fiesta Fringe crochet halter top. And as you can see, I'm going to be using I Love This cotton from Hobby Lobby. I have a sizing chart up above. I'll explain in a little bit. I have this beautiful crochet hook here that was handmade by this fabulous craftsman, Scott Foster at ADZE Woodworking, and you can see his information there. The other items I'm going to need are something to cut my yarn when I'm done, and then a needle for weaving in the ends. So let's begin. To start off with, I just went online and did a search for an infant toddler shirt sizing chart, and I found this one here, which I really like because it went infant clear through adult. And because I'm going to be making a halter top for a 3T, as you can see right here, what I'm going to be looking at is the width, because I'm going to want it to cover this little girl clear across the front. So it says it needs to be 13 inches wide. Now, I don't need it to be 16 inches long, but I figure I will want it to go at least over halfway. So I'm going to say that I want to build my halter top probably to about 9 inches tall. And this will make more sense as we go along. As with the beginning of every crochet project, we're just going to start with the basic slip knot. And I do this simply by just taking whatever yarn I'm working with, run it over my pointer finger, then behind. Then I just slide it under and through and pull up that loop. I want to make sure I have a little bit longer tail so I'll be able to weave in the ends. But then I just get my hook, put it through, and tighten it up around the widest part here. So next, since I decided I was going to make a halter top for a 3T size girl, I'm going to just make a chain that is long enough to cover the width, which we said was going to be 13 inches. So I'm just going to start doing a chain, yarn over, pull through, and I'm just going to keep doing this until I get approximately 13 inches. So just come back to me in a second. Okay, I'm just about to 13 inches. I'm going to lay it down here by my measuring tape to make sure. Looks like I went over by a couple stitches. I'm just going to pull 2 out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to count my chain because I wasn't smart enough to do it the first time. And I'm just going to come to the closest even number of stitches that is closest to 13 inches. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 24, 26, 28, 32, 34, 36, 38, 42. I got lucky right there. So here is my base chain for my size 3T halter top. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to be using half double crochets in the back loop only, going backward across the row when I turn. So before I turn, I'm just going to hold my finger right here in my last stitch, and I'm going to do 2 more chains, 1, 2, and that's going to be the start of my second row. And I'm going to yarn over and go into the stitch that I was holding my finger on, that was my last stitch of my foundation row. Yarn over, pull up, yarn over, and then pull through all 3, and that's a half double crochet. And I like this stitch. Okay, so I'm going to yarn over and this is the stitch I was holding my finger in. I'm just going to go through that back loop only, yarn over, pull up a stitch, yarn over, pull it through all 3. And that's a half double crochet in the back loop only. And I'm going to do that again all across the row. So I'm going to yarn over, go into just the back loop of the V of your stitch, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through all 3. And now I have 2 nice half double crochets in the back loop. And I'm going to continue this back across my foundation chain. Okay, yarn over, back loop only, pull up, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So I will meet you over at the other end. Okay, I'm coming up to the end of my foundation chain. I just have a few more half double crochets left to do here. And when I get to the end, I'm just going to, here we go, here's that last stitch right here. I'm going to go into that back top loop or back loop, pull it up, I'm going to pull it through all 3. I'm just going to tighten this up a bit. You can see we have this really nice texture happening here. And we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, that's our turning chain. I'm going to flip my work. And I'm going to go back across, and as you can see, when I want to hold my work at the top, I can see the stitches I'm going to be going into here. And I'm going to be doing half double crochet, so I'm going to yarn over, go into the back loop only, come up, and pull it through all 3. I'm going to do several of these so that you can see that the texture this creates is really pretty. And it also creates a more closed looking fabric. And I think that's important when we're covering up our little girls. Okay, so I'm just going to do a few more stitches here so that you can see how by going into the back loop only, that creates a little texture. Here, I'll pull this up, stop right here so you can see. As you can see then, it makes a little ridge here. And I just think it looks kind of cool. Okay, so I'm going to go back across the row, and we're going to do 6 total rows of half double crochets in the back loop only. So I'll catch you at the end of the next row. Okay, I'm coming up on the end of row 2 of the half double crochet in the back loop only. Oops. There, and I go one more, draw it up. There I am at the end of row 2. Technically this is my 3rd row because we had the foundation chain, but it's our 2nd row of half double crochet in the back loop. Again, every time we get to the end of the row, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn our work, and then we're going to start half double crochet in the back loop only all the way back. Now, I'm just going to talk about this hook for a few minutes, or a little bit here anyway. This is a wooden hook made out of Cerakote wood, and I cannot even tell you how smoothly it glides through whatever type of yarn you're using, but especially when you're working with 100% cotton, it's just like a hot knife through butter. I mean, it is so smooth. I probably typically crochet much faster than this, but I want to make sure that since this is my first tutorial that I'm not getting too crazy going off screen and stuff here, because I'm pretty low tech when it comes to putting together a video. But anyway, this Cerakote, it's a real nice weight, not too heavy, but yet substantial enough that it moves real easily in your hand. Your hand doesn't get too tired when you're crocheting with it. And like I said, and just look at the design that Scott puts into these. I mean, he does this all by hand, the sanding, on the lathe and everything. I mean, this is just a beautiful piece of artwork here. So I'm going to keep going across the row, and I'll catch you at the other side. Okay, I'm coming up to the end of row 3 here of the half double crochet in the back loop only. I got 2 left. You can see right there, 1, 2. Here's 2. Whoops. And again, we're at the end of the row. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2. I'm going to turn my work. And now you can see how this is just really turning into a nice texture. I'm going to start back across. So we're halfway done with what I would consider to be like the bottom band of the halter top. And so, like I said, we're going to do 6 rows of this. So I'm going to keep crocheting, and I'm going to stop and check in with you again when I'm done with all 6 of these half double crochet rows in the back loop only. So I will see you soon. Okay, so here we go. This is what the bottom portion of the front of the halter top is going to look like. Down here was our foundation chain, and as you can see, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And I just think that that's a nice amount to build the foundation of this top. And then what we're going to do next is we're just going to go and strictly do single crochet for the remainder of this top. And if you remember back to my size chart here, when I was looking at the 3T and it said the height was 16, and I was thinking I probably want somewhere between 8 and 9 inches of height in total. So as I measure what I have already, we can see I have right at about 3 inches. So I'm going to just start single crocheting 1 row straight across, and then I'm going to start doing a single crochet decrease on both sides as we go up so that we'll get the tapered look of a halter top. So let me show you how that's going to work. So here's the end of my 6th row of half double crochet. Because we're going to single crochet, I'm just going to chain once. I'm going to turn, and then I'm not going to continue with the back loop only because I want this to be more of a solid flat fabric. And so I'm going to go through both of that stitch, the top, come over, and I am just going to single crochet all the way back across just to give this, whoops, a good base before we start decreasing at both ends. So I'm just going to keep going, single crochet through both, and I will meet you on the other side. Okay, here we are at the end of this row. As you can see, I have 2 stitches, 1, 2 here, and we're going to do a decrease here. So I'm going to go into my first stitch, pull up a loop. I'm going to go into that last stitch under both, pull up a loop, and then I'm going to bring it through all 3. And there's my decrease. These 2 stitches are basically stitched together. Okay, I'm going to chain 1, my turning chain. I'm going to turn my work. And we are going to start off with another decrease right here. So we can see this is our first stitch. So I'm going to go into that stitch, pull up a loop, go into the second stitch right here, pull up a loop, Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So now you can see a little bit better that we're starting to taper upwards. Okay, so again, we're just going to keep single crocheting. This is a very easy project, suitable for beginners, because we're basically only going to do 2 different types. Well, no, we will do a, let's see, we've done chain, we've done half double, now we're doing single. Eventually, when we're making the straps for this halter top, we're going to be doing some slip stitch, but definitely this would be a very beginner project. The way you choose to finish this halter top could maybe add to the difficulty of it, but I'm just going to show you how to do a simple fringe on the bottom of the front of the halter, and I will meet you on the other side when I'm ready to decrease. Okay, here I am at the end of this row. You see I have my 2 stitches here. I'm going to go into this first one, pull up a loop. I'm going to go into the last stitch of the row, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And now we are starting to see this taper. I'm going to chain 1. That's my turning chain. I'm going to turn my work. And immediately we are going to do a decrease here. So here's my first chain. I'm going to go into it, pull up a loop, go into the second chain, or excuse me, second stitch, pull up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, bring them together, and here we can see now it's really starting to taper in. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're just going to keep doing this process of decreasing at the beginning and end of each row until you're happy with the height. Then, like I said, we're going for a probably, I'd say let's go for about 8 inches in height. And let's try, well, we can. We're big people, right? We can. Let's end up on the side when we're going back and forth that we actually started with. We'll have our tail, our starting tail there. And the reason is because I'm going to try to do as little weaving in of ends as we can. And so if we keep going back and forth, and end up over here at the top, then we can do our one strap, come back down that strap, go across, another strap, come back down, go across. You get the idea. We'll come back down to this bottom we made. I might do a little something fancy. I don't know. We'll see. We really don't need to. But then we'll come back down this side. I think I will have to make kind of a decrease to make like a triangle, and then we'll make a strap out to this side, come back on the strap, come back around, and the same over here, and then we'll end up back up here where we started that first strap. That probably sounded like some pretty serious rambling there for a bit, but it'll maybe make sense once we keep going. But I'm just going to keep going single crochets, decreasing at the beginning and the end of each row until it tapers up until... Okay, so I changed my mind. I did want to just do a halfway shot for you so that you could see how nicely this is tapering up. Now, okay, I'm back, and I've decided that this is far enough. As you can see, I ended on a row up here that is on the same side that I started with. When I measure across here from this last row, it's about 3 inches across, and I think that would be fine coverage for right below the neckline of a three-year-old. Okay, so as you can see then, my entire top, if I measure it from the very top row to the bottom here, I'm at about 6.5 inches. Okay, and we wanted a shirt to be or a halter to be, you know, probably about 9. So that gives us about 2.5 inches here for the fringe that we could put on. And I think that would be a really nice coverage of a halter top for a little girl. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to start building our first strap. And remember, as we look at our piece from the front, we should be on the top right side, and we know we're on the front because we see our tail. We wanted to end on the same side as our beginning tail. Now, I didn't do this very scientifically. I just kind of thought, now how long of a strap would be good for something like this? And so I'm thinking I want to do a chain of about at least probably 13 inches. To me, 13 inches, if I were to put that coming off of here, I think that would be good. That would give enough room to go around the neck and to still have a comfortable enough length to tie. So right now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start single crocheting until I get a chain of approximately 13 inches. It doesn't need to be a certain number, but just keep going until you have about 13 inches. I had fun just coming up with this pattern because, as you can see, you really don't have to count except for the last 2 stitches at the end of the row or at the beginning of the row when you're doing your decreases. Otherwise, I'm basically just going by measurements. And those of you that are thinking about starting to create your own designs, that's what I would suggest for you to do as well. You know, start with measurements and then see where that takes you, your stitch count it takes you to get there, the size of hook it takes you to get there. But crochet is very forgiving, as we all know. It doesn't take much to take out some stitches if we don't like how it looks. It's kind of painful emotionally, but other than that, it's not too bad. So, okay, I'm going to see about where I'm at here on my ruler. Oh, that's close. I am almost right at, I'm just a little over 13 inches. I'm happy with that. So, what I'm going to do now, I've finished going up this side. Now what I'm going to do is I am just in the second chain from the hook. So not this one, but this one. I'm just going to start slip stitching my way back. So I'm just going to, kind of like I did at the foundation where we just did the back loop only, I'm just going to go through that back loop, pick it up, and I'm going to pull it through my first loop. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way back down my chain. Depending on how tight you crochet, this part is probably going to take you the longest just to get through those stitches. I typically crochet pretty tight, but now as you can see, I ended up not crocheting so tight this time, so go figure. But I just like the way a slip stitch on a chain looks for a cord. I think it's substantial. It doesn't stretch once you've made it, and it lies flat. And I really like how that looks. So again, first you chain the length you want, and then you just turn and slip stitch through the back loop only all the way back down to your main piece, and I will meet you there. Okay, I'm almost back to the top of my top. I'm just going to go into this last stitch here, slip stitch. And then what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch through each of these in the top row to the last stitch. And then I'm going to chain the approximate length of this first chain I made, about 13 inches, and slip stitch back down. Okay, so I'm going to catch both loops, and I'm going to slip stitch across this last row of the body of the shirt that we made. Here you can see my tight stitches. It's a little trickier to get through, but not really. Just got to go slower with this hook because otherwise it'll just slip right away from me because it's so smooth. Okay, here we go. I got one more here. That's the last stitch. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to slip stitch, and now I'm just going to chain. I'm just going to start doing my chain, and I'm probably not even going to use my ruler for this. I'm just going to hold it against the other one I made and kind of eyeball it. Like I said, this is a very forgiving pattern. And I wanted my first crochet tutorial to be something very easy that hopefully all of you can just take, use what you will, and maybe even modify it. As you're crocheting, see some other things that, oh, hey, you might want to try with it. Because that seems to be what always happens with me. Even though I prefer to crochet from a pattern, once I've made certain things so many times, then I just kind of start freehanding it. Let's see where I'm at here. Okay, so if I'm going to fold this over so I can see how close I am. I am pretty close. I need about another inch. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'm just going to go back down. Now I'm not going to go into this first stitch because that's where my loop is, but I'm going to go into the second stitch and I'm just going to slip stitch. Whoops. I'm going to slip stitch my way back down the second tie of the top of our halter top. So again, I will meet you when I get back down to the body of the top. Okay, I'm just about back to the main body of the top. I'm going into this last chain stitch where I started my chain, slip stitch. And I do want to just show you these ties because aren't they adorable? They're just so nice and flat, and they're going to be so easy for moms to tie on their squirmy little 3-year-olds. Okay, so we did that last chain. We're going to go, now what we're going to do is along this side where we tapered, where we decreased until we get down to the corner, we're going to continue just slip stitching our way down. So I'm going to go back into this corner stitch, and I'm going to pull it, and I'm just going to slip stitch there. And then I'm just going to go along this edge, and wherever I see, see now, here's where I decrease. So we got a couple of stitches coming together. It would be difficult to put a stitch in there, but right here, as you can, this next one right here, I can get under these two pretty well. So I'm just going to go in there, slip stitch, and I'm going to do this relatively loosely because if I were to do this tight all the way along here, it would probably cause my fabric to roll or curl, and I don't want to do that. I just want to, and I don't really want to add bulk to it either. So I'm just going to go in wherever I see a nice space, and I'm going to do a loose slip stitch, and you can see how it's finishing off the top of this. It's going to make it look really nice. So again, here's a knot in this one, so I'm going to go into this stitch right here, and it's kind of tight. Like I said before, I like to crochet tight, so this is where it can get a little tricky, but I'm just slip stitching on down this tapered side. And again, do it loosely. Don't worry so much. When you get to down here to the corner, you'll know if you slip stitch, like if you made your slip, like if I tried to go from here clear to here with one slip stitch, it would start to pucker and gather. So just make sure that, you know, you're doing it evenly. Again, there's no real science to this. I'm just kind of winging it, kind of how I go through life too, ask my family. I'm just carefully and loosely going down this side, and here I'll stop so you can see what a nice finish that gives it right there. It looks super cute then with this slip stitch going down. I'm almost to the corner, so I'm just going to keep yapping at you while I go. And I'm just loose. Again, I just can't emphasize how loosely you should do this, because you don't want it to curl and pucker up when you get this all done. And because we're using 100% cotton too, as with any 100% cotton fabric, you're going to want to not put this in the dryer. You're going to want to probably wash it in cool to maybe warm water, and then just lie it flat to dry or hang it. Okay, as you can see, I've gone down the side here. I think I've done a pretty nice job. It doesn't seem to be rolling or turning or anything. And I just got here to the corner. Okay, so we're here at the corner. Here is a side. So I'm actually, now our top was, if it was sitting upright, that's the way it would look. But I'm actually going to turn my work sideways here, because what we're going to create is basically a chain that's going to give us a little bit of space here, and we're going to connect it here. We're going to go back over that chain and back one more time to make a real sturdy loop here that we'll use to where we will secure our side straps too. So again, I'm just going to single crochet. I don't want it to have a lot of give here. I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna, oops, can't talk and crochet at the same time, obviously. Okay, so I'm gonna just crochet a few here and see where I'm at. Now, if I were to, okay, I think I want a little bit more, because I want my chain to be at least as long, or the width of the fabric I'm doing here. If it's less, it's gonna, you know, cause it to pucker or get small. So as you can see now, I'm just loosely holding my fabric so you can see it's like that when it's loose. My chain, it's just a little bit, actually I think I'm gonna go one more, so it's basically a couple stitches wider than this half double crochet section. And then I'm going to secure it. I'm going to go into this last stitch here, and I'm going to just do a slip stitch. I'm pulling it up. Oh, sorry about that. Going back into that stitch. Maybe I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'm going to bring it through that chain. So now we have this loop here, and as hopefully you can kind of see what we're going to do is we're going to put our tie coming off the middle of the loop here. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn my work. Oh, change my mind. We're going to do a single crochet, then turn our work. And you could do this a couple different ways. You could just use this and pretend it's a cord in and of itself, and you could just go under it and pick up and do single crochets down the entire length of it. Or if you want to make sure that you have the same number of crochets, like I said, you know, I don't like to count, just make sure that you're working from the top of that chain, and you just go into each stitch. Okay, and I think for this one I would do a single crochet all the way back, picking up that back loop. And I'll just do that with you here. I'm just going to single crochet the back loop all the way down to the other end to make this substantial enough so that, you know, it can withstand being tugged on, to be, you know, fit properly around your little girl, but yet not to be pulling stitches loose or anything like that. Okay, so I'm just again making a real secure foundation, and you'll want to make sure that you're, you know, going through the top of your, you know, that you have your work turned so that you can see that top of the stitch, so that you're not twisting it as you go, because that would make it just look a little funky. Okay, and so then here's where I had started. So actually with this one, yeah, I think I'm going to go through both stitches because I think I want that to definitely be more secure there. Okay. I am going to go back into this corner and do a slip stitch. Whoops. Again, if you don't do these steps, that's fine. This is just from my years of crocheting. I know I want to secure that. I am going to do a turning chain. Now this time, I am just going to slip stitch all the way back. And I am going to pick up both loops here. So I'm going to go under these two, and I'm going to slip stitch my way back because I don't want to make this part any bulkier. And then again, it's going to give it that nice finished look of our other straps up here. But the reason I did 3 this time is so that I can do less weaving in of ends. Yeah, you can tell I don't like to weave in ends, so I'm just kind of building this so that everything, almost the entire body of this will just be the one thread, and we'll just cut it once at the end, hopefully. We'll still have to do our 2 side ties, but, well, here, no, let me back this up. Let's go back till we're about halfway here. Looks like I'm going to do halfway between here and here. And let's go ahead and just do our tie like we did up here. I'm going to go one more, I think. Slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain. Okay, so I hate to tell you this, but we're going to have to do a little bit of math. We got to decide how long we want to make these side straps back here. We know that the width of the front is 13. So the back needs to be 13. Plus from there, remember we did 13 inches long. So I'm just looking right here. It appears, you know, and if I were to hold these two right here in place and tug on this a bit, I'm just going to measure right here to here. That's about 1.5 inches. But we have 13 inches, so that would be, okay, as you can see, as I crocheted with my tight crocheting, it brought it in a bit. So everything that's going to be on the back side of our shirt needs to be 13 inches to the center from wherever we're starting over here. So we have this, so 6.5 is right there. So we need to start our chain. Mine's here at about 1.5, needs to go to, so I need about 5 inches here just to get it to be to the middle of the back. Plus, like I said, again, we want a 13-inch chain coming up. So 5 plus 13 is 18 inches long. So what I'm going to do is, I was right here in the center, in the center of my little loop I had just made. And I am going to chain approximately an 18-inch long chain. Now, because this is a halter top, it's going to be very forgiving, okay? Because the size chart I used at the beginning of the video was like for an average 3T. Now, if you're, a little bit slimmer than a normal 3T, you're going to have longer tails on your ties, but that's just fine, okay? And if your little one is a little stockier, you might have a little bit shorter ties, and that's okay too, okay? It's all going to work out, especially after we put the fringe on top, or not on top, excuse me, on the bottom. Of course, fringe coming off the top would be cute too. I might have to add that to one of these. We're going to have a good coverage on the front so that, no bellies and belly buttons are hanging out or anything like that. If you don't want, you can certainly, just leave this without any fringe if you like the look of it, because since this is 100% cotton, okay, I'm only at 13 inches. I got 5 more to go. Since this is 100% cotton, if you like just the look of this, this could most certainly be a bathing suit top too, Just rinse it with cold water when you're done swimming and lay flat to dry. And it should hold up really well for a little one in the summer. Okay, so I'm just guesstimating as I go, and I'm probably talking too much. I'm probably getting too far, so I'll stop and I'll do another check again. Let's see. I need to be at 18 inches. Oh yeah, okay. Went to 21, so I'm going to take about 3 inches off here. Okay, let's try this again. Like I said, I am not very technical, hence this is why this is my first. Oh, we're just over 18. I'd say we're good. Okay, this is my first crochet tutorial. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just like I did with these neck straps, starting in the second chain from my hoop, I'm just going to slip stitch all the way back. Make another nice flat tie that's going to come out the side. And I will meet you back up when I get back down to that little half moon that we started this chain from. To mention, I am just picking up the back loop only when I'm doing these slip stitches. It just makes it lie nice and flat, nice even looking tie. Okay, I promise. This time I'll catch you when I get back to the main body. Okay, I'm getting close to getting back to the loop here. Just real importantly, just make sure that your chain is not twisting as you're going back down the chain, doing your slip stitches, so that it'll be nice and flat, just like our other one. Okay, here's that last one. I'm going to go into it, slip stitch, and then I'm going to continue slip stitching, but this time through both, through the other part of this loop we made. Okay, you can kind of see what's happening here. Okay, and I'm just going to go to this other side. There we go. We're getting there. And I am going through both, remember, for this slip stitch. And that was the last one that I'm going to slip stitch. And then we're back to the main fabric here, and I'm going to want to put another slip stitch in the corner to really secure this, so that, because this section right here is going to get some tugging, so you want to make sure that it's really secured there well. Okay, now we're back to the bottom of our halter top. And what we're going to do here is we're going to just we're going to single crochet, create a chain. And remember at the beginning, I did an even number of stitches in my foundation chain. What I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 2, skip a stitch, and then single crochet to create little mini loops. And that's what we're going to use to put our fringe in. Okay, so we're back here to the bottom corner, the bottom of our halter. Like I said, I am going to chain 2, 1, 2. I'm going to skip a stitch, and then I'm going to single crochet. Okay, and it's creating a little bit of a loop here that we'll be able to tuck those fringe through. So I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm going to skip over 1, and I'm going to single crochet. And I'm just going to do that. You can see it's not a big loop or anything, but it'll just be a little bit, it gives us a little bit of space here to tuck the fringe through. Okay, so two chains, 1, 2. And these aren't real easy to see as stitches, but you can see there's kind of a hole there, and then there's a hole here. So I'm skipping one hole, going into the next. And as you've guessed, this is not exact, and it's okay because there's a hole there. I'm going to skip. I'm going to go into this one. It's okay because the fringe and everything is going to distract from any imperfections you might make along here. And even if for some reason you got to the other side and you came out at an odd number or whatever, it's still fine. So nobody is going to look that close. Unless you are selling these, then you might want to be a little more exact, because when I am making garments to sell, when I am making garments to sell, I am very much a perfectionist, because, that's my name on my work. And if I want to sell more or have repeat buyers, they're going to want top quality for their dollar, because I don't just give away my crochet all the time. I do sometimes, especially to family and friends, but I do like to make a little money from it. And so in order to get a fair price, you got to consider the time you put in, your workmanship, your materials. And so, some of my garments you're spending a decent amount of money on, so I want them to be perfect because I want you to absolutely love them. But what I like about this little pattern is you're going to absolutely love it, even if you come out with an odd stitch here or there, okay? So, and because this goes together so quickly, you get to the other side, it doesn't quite look right, you can pull out a few stitches and just go back and redo a few, okay? Because like I said, that fringe is really going to be what is the main attraction of this top. So they won't be looking at this little row of loops we're making right here. Okay, so like there. Yeah, see, I came out pretty darn close here. Well, that slippery hook again. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it, Scott. Okay, and then that was the corner. Okay, so that was going to be my last stitch. So now let's see. So the bottom, actually, it just kind of looks like a little ruffle, but it just gave us little bigger areas that we're going to put our tassel or our fringe through, okay? Now, we're going to do exactly what we did on the other side. We're going to create this little half moon with a strap coming out, and then we're going to be finished with this bad boy, okay? So, we should be at the corner where we actually first started this top. We're going to just chain. Remember, we're going to chain the width of this bottom section plus 2. I think that's what I did on the other side is what I decided. So I'm just going to start making a chain. I'm not even counting, okay? I'm just eyeballing it because then, you know, it's going to be just fine. Okay, so you want your fabric here to be, you know, just loosely lying flat. We got to go to about there. So I have probably, well, let's see, I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm going to try this again. I'm just going to lay this down beside it. Yep, that's about 2 stitches past the end, or this corner that we created. And we are going to go right into this corner where we started to decrease. We want to be right in this corner. And I'm just going to slip stitch to there. And I'm going to chain 1. Okay, we're down to the home stretch here. We just need to single crochet back down to here, turn, do 1 chain stitch for your turning chain. I did forget to mention, remember that when you are coming back on your slip stitch row to stop about halfway and then do your chain of approximately 18 inches. I just lined it up with the one I did on the other side, slip stitch back, slip stitch on around, and then when you get to the corner, remember to make sure you anchor that in good with another slip stitch, and then we're going to go back up to our original tie by loosely slip stitching our way up. Wherever you see a decent opening here, we're just going to go in, we're just going to slip stitch our way back, and I'll meet you at the top and we'll be ready to start on the fringe. Okay, I'm back here to where I started my first tie. I'm just going to leave a good length of tail on my working yarn here, and using my pretty little birdie scissors, I'm just going to clip a length, and then I'm just going to pull this back through this and then pull it nice and tight there. And then all you're going to need to do is take a nice big needle, a darning needle or a big needle that yarn will fit through. And when I work in my ends, okay, so I know this is the front of my piece because remember we started down here. I know this is the front, so I'm just going to turn my work over onto the back, and I'm just going to I just call it weaving it in. I'm just going to find, I can see I got a couple stitches here I could go under. I don't really worry too much about this. I'm just putting it under here a few stitches and pulling it nice and tight. And then when I come back, I'm going to do like an over, under to actually do more of a weave here, catching every other stitch, pull it back. And I'm just going to go back and forth 4 or 5 times. Make sure that that end is really buried and woven in well so that it would never come undone. So there's 3, and I'm just kind of pressing it down as I go because you don't want a big bump there. That wouldn't be very comfortable for our little one. Okay, and so then here's 4, as I come back. Like I said, I'm not too worried about this because after you wash this garment a while and stuff, it's all going to kind of blend in. And number 5, I'm going to go back. I think 5 is a good number. It would take a lot for that bad boy to come undone. Okay, I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm just going to clip very, very close here. And as you can see, this looks very nice. You can't even really tell where it was woven in. You would have to look really hard. Okay, so here is, let me get all this stuff out of the way, our finished main body of our top. Looks pretty cute. All we need to do is add our Fiesta fringe down here. So if we go back to our sizing chart here, remember for a 3T, the length of the shirt from the neck clear down to the waist, it says for a 3T is 16. And this is a halter top, so I figure we want to cover probably at least down to the belly button. So halfway would be 8, which is kind of what we were aiming at the beginning. So I think I'm going to make my fringe about 3 inches. Okay, so that means each piece of yarn I cut needs to be about 6 inches because we're going to double it over. To determine how many fringes we're going to need to cut, I just look back at this final row on the bottom we made with our little 2 chain loops here, and I'm just going to count how many of those I made. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And what I want to do is I want to put 2 pieces of fringe in each hole. So that's why I cut the 12-inch lengths so that that process would go faster. And then as I go, I'll cut the 12-inch lengths in half. Okay, and this will make more sense. So I'm going to pick up one of my 12-inch lengths, and I'm just going to fold it in half. Using my scissors, I'm just going to cut that. Because now, remember, when this doubles over, that'll be about 3 inches, and then that'll be a nice little add to the bottom here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just holding these together. And in the center, I'm going to come up in the first little loop that I made here. I'm just going to pull it through. I want to make sure that my ends are relatively even because we can always trim those afterwards. I'm going to come back, I'm going to grab all of those loops there and try to pull them through. Okay, just like that, almost like that. I missed one, it looks like here. So I'm going to catch this guy and bring him through. There we go. And then I'm just going to pull these securely, and voila. We have some tassels. So here, let me do another one with you, and then I'll go and finish this off myself. Here's my 12 inches of yarn. I'm going to fold it in half. Cut it. Again, I'm going to fold this in half. And then going into the second loop here, I'm going to go up from behind, pull my loop, pull the center of it, center of it through. I need a third hand here. This would be really helpful. And go ahead and make this loop big right now so that you can get all of these 4 strands through. You may even want to just kind of help it there with your other hand. And pull it tight. Voila! It's looking so cute. Okay, you're just going to keep doing that in each of these until we get to the other side. See you there. I'm ready to put in my last bit of fringe. And if any of you were like me and gave up ship on using your hook, you could always just, pull up a big loop here, grab these with your finger, and pull them. Okay, here we go. Isn't this cute? We have our Fiesta fringe. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. I want to thank Scott Foster at ADZE Woodcraft. He is an amazing woodcrafter. His hooks are super. I have 3 of them. I'm sure I will be getting more in the near future. Thanks, and have fun making your Fiesta fringe top.